let's talk about, can you tell me what do you do? I know you're in the Lego business, but what exactly do you do?
Sure. So I take, what a lot of people have grown up with, which are toys that they probably had when they were growing up, and I try to use those to build really big, extravagant builds. And so using like the Lego bricks that you're used to as a kid, but kind of taking them, I hope, up a notch to build some really, really big Lego creations.
That is awesome. And I know I want to start and go back a little bit because I know that you've been doing this for like quite some time. So how
Yeah.
did you even get into like building Legos and these extravagant sculptures out of Legos?
Right. So, like a lot of people probably out there who have older brothers, older sisters, and all, my older two brothers were into Lego far before I was ever even in the picture. So, it was one of those deals that we always grew up with Lego. And so Christmas and birthdays and any kind of gift always involve Lego. I think attribute and give my mom the thanks for that because, she wanted to definitely give us something that we could do that would keep us out of her hair and also spark that imagination that she wanted us to have. So we did that, and so I kind of grew up with Lego. But then, the people who are adult fans of Lego who like get into Lego as adults, they most of them go through what we call the dark ages. It's kind of the what we call that, and so it's a years of you're too cool for Lego and you don't do other things. You're more interested in friends and those kind of things. So I got back into Lego whenever I was probably 13, 12 or 13, probably in that area back in 2002, 2000, between 2000 and 2002. And so I started getting back into Lego and I came back into Lego, I guess, right at the right time because Lego was starting to do new sets. They were starting to do licensing where they started to license with TV shows and movies and all this. Well, they just happened to be licensing with one of my favorite things, which was Star Wars. And so they started licensing sets back in 1999 with Star Wars, and I really, gravitated towards that on wanting to build Lego and Star Wars. So I started building stuff at that point in time, and then just kind of started building bigger and bigger and bigger, and so really kind of started looking at that, and so that's kind of how I got back into Lego, and kind of specifically how I got into Star Wars Lego.
That is so awesome. Okay, and then tell me if you don't mind, what's your age now so that we can get to a
Right.
scope on how
Yeah.
long you've been doing it?
Yeah, so I'm 39. I'm 39 years old. And so, you're talking, how old was that? That's, a bunch of years for sure, back since then and all, probably 23 years of really kind of 23, 24 years of really building heavily again into Lego. So I really, kind of got back into that. And one of the things that I'd say definitely changed the way I was building Lego were the Lego conventions. We started, I did not know that there was a fan community out there of adult Lego builders. So, one time I went to the Lego store in Houston and saw an advertisement for a Lego group in Houston, and Houston Brick Club is the name of the club now. And so, I realized, hey, there's a group out there that is like me that are, adult fans of Lego that build Lego. And through that, they had an event that they do every year. The event's called Brick Rodeo, and Brick Rodeo is a Texas event that is travels between Austin and Houston. And so I got interested in learning more about this Lego event and went to one and back in 2012 and just immediately just fell in love with the idea of these really large and intricate builds and people building just all sorts of different stuff, whether it was castles or Star Wars or, mosaics, all this stuff that they were building. And so I started building, for competition back in 2014.
That is awesome. And so you recently went to a competition and you brought home a couple of really large awards. Tell me
Yeah.
about those awards and your experience at this recent competition.
Yeah, so we went to Brick World Chicago, which is historically the largest, if not one of the largest, in the United States. It brings builders from across the country and even some around the world. And so, just to kind of a comparison, the Texas event is 400 to 500 builds, which is a lot, but the one in Chicago brought out almost 3,000 builds. And so people were really and truly, coming out of everywhere with these really intricate, really crazy builds. So I learned about Brick World Chicago years ago. And when I started building what is now being displayed at the Museum of East Texas, this build was something that I started planning and started getting ready for Brick World Chicago with back in 2018. So I really wanted to put my best foot forward as we went to Chicago, knowing that it was, an event where so many builders came out, and it was kind of one of those coveted events. So I started building for Brick World back in 2018. So we did end up going this year. So after years of planning, going through a pandemic, and doing all that, it was time to finally go to Brick World Chicago. So we packed up a 12-foot U-Haul trailer full of Lego of all these builds, custom made tables, all of this stuff that we had made, and put it all in the back of this trailer. And I say we because my wife is totally a part of this. She doesn't help with the bill, but she is by far the best consultant between her and my son on really kind of giving me constructive feedback. And I call it constructive because of the fact that they're very, very good at eyeing things that I miss. And so we packed all of this up in this U-Haul trailer, traveled 15 hours to Chicago, and then took over 20 hours setting it back up for competition in Chicago. And at that point in time, the goal was never to go and win Brick World Chicago. The idea was to go and put your best foot forward. That's always what I want to do. If I'm going and all, and I'm putting that much energy and effort into it, I want to go and do my best. Well, we got it there after a really long 20 plus hour setup. We got it there, and then we're surprised to have won the Judges Award, which is it's a very, very cool award. So of 2,900 displays, there's only three Judges Awards that are awarded, and then also there's an award that's kind of mysterious and kind of has nobody knows who exactly awards it. It's somebody that comes in and gives what's called the White Brick Award, and the White Brick Award is what it sounds like. It's a giant white brick, and we got awarded that, and there was only four of those given across 2,900 displays. So to come home with both of those was quite a blessing. It was pretty awesome.
I bet I would have loved to have been in the room. I know you all were so excited because a lot of time goes into this. Like you said, 20 hours. So thinking about it taking you all 20 hours to like set that up there in Chicago, how many hours do you spend on it daily? So what are you putting into it throughout the weeks, like during your process of building it?
Right. So the build consists of three larger builds. One of the builds took 9 months to build. One of them took 11 months, and the other took 3.5 months. I measure them in months because just like a lot of like hobbies, or if somebody's writing a book or somebody's drawing a picture or whatever it is, there's times in which in the Lego process that you hit like writer's block. I guess it's called Lego builder's block in this one. And so, you hit those blocks, and sometimes the best thing you can do is kind of walk away from the build and give it a time to really think on it, to look for inspiration and all, and then you come back to it. So there were times in which, like on the 9 month build, that I would build pretty heavily for 2 to 3 hours in the evenings, and then of course weekends. And there's times in which you get excited about the build. Like I always call it chasing the idea. So there would be times in which that I would start chasing the idea. And sadly, I would start chasing the idea at like 8 o'clock at night, and I would look up and it'd be 3 a.m. and I'd be like, oh gosh, I picked the wrong time to chase this idea. But it's so much fun to be able to do that. And so there's times in which you spend a lot more hours on it than others. But this last build, the 3.5 month build, the reason why it was quicker is I was definitely trying to hit that Brick World Chicago build. So I was building six days a week pretty much on that for 2 to 3 hours a day. And then on the weekends, 4 to 5 hours a day to try to do that. And so it definitely was a deal of trying to hit that deadline on this last build.
Oh, I know that's a lot of work. And last time we spoke, you actually said this isn't your full-time job. So this is on top of
Oh,
everything else that you have going throughout the day, which kudos to you. This takes a lot of patience. Okay, so let's talk about this build that you did take to Chicago. What are the details on it? What all does it include? I think there was some mechanics that we talked about last
yeah,
time as
yeah.
well.
So they're all three large scale Star Wars builds that are meant to go together as one solid unit. One of them is 9 feet in height, and it has real working engines on the side. It has living quarters on the side where people have beds and they're eating cornflakes in one of the housing units. And it has tunnels inside of it with craft going back and forth. There's a command deck on top with people. It's fully loaded. And then the 12-foot wide one has train cars in the bottom of the tunnels that are Bluetooth controlled, so I can drive the trains back and forth. It has ends that have fighter craft in it, fighter jets per se. In the end of it, it has a command deck. It has tunnels with people in it. There's a ton of Easter eggs in it of people like Leia and C-3PO for those Star Wars fans out there, and just has a ton of people in it. And then the last build, the third build, is a large cargo ship. So it's a space cargo ship. And on it has all sorts of stuff inside of it. It was one of the more fun builds to do on the inside. It has a greenhouse on the inside of it. So somebody's working in a garden with a banana tree and pumpkins. And then it has a cafeteria. It has a repair bay. It has a doctor's office. It has living quarters with beds in it, and each little room has its own little porch light. And there's a place where they're taking a break and they're eating pizza, and there's just all sorts of stuff. And it has real moving cargo on a belt that rolls like through the ship and all. And so the idea would be like that the cargo would be loaded on this belt so that it could be taken outside of the ship. So it has real working that. And the last build even has a real miniature working screen. So it's like a little TV screen is in the command deck at the top. So it's about a 2 inch wide screen that's on the top deck that always catches people's attention, that it has a little screen on the top.
That is crazy to even think about because you're not just Lego building, you're also a little bit of a mechanic here or like a engineer because
Oh yeah, yeah.
in
There's
the
a lot of
room.
wiring that goes into this and all. I do a lot of soldering on the thing. It has plugs and all this. Like for instance, the large 12-foot wide one has 18 USB cords that run through it that power the lights, and it runs on 5 external batteries. The yellow cargo ship runs on 9 different batteries, has lighting effects in it, has the real working screen. The tall one it runs on 2 large batteries. It has 4 motors on it that rotate engines. There is a lot that goes into it on structural integrity, wiring, batteries, all of that, and so that just adds to the fun of the Lego build.
That is awesome. So what you're talking about seems very tedious. Like it would take a long time. So I'm pretty sure that you've taken a lot away from this because it takes a lot of patience. What is something that you say that Lego building has taught you for life?
Oh yeah, no, it definitely has a lot of life skills on that. Patience is definitely one of them. But then the other thing is, don't settle on just, what you think is the at first appearance is maybe what you initially thought in your mind. Life, it presents a lot of opportunities that when you make up in your mind and you've said, this is exactly how this is going to go down, whether that's, this is exactly how my career is going to progress or exactly how my family is going to progress. And, have this grand plan for how your life is going to stack out. Lego is a lot in a ways is kind of that smaller life lesson on, that whenever you allow yourself to, change the build or, change, and I guess in the life circumstance, change whatever, be willing to let your mind be changed and all, is that a deal of what you originally thought you had in your mind and what you see at the end. The thing at the end is way better than what you could have ever possibly imagined in your mind because of the fact that you allowed the process to happen. So, that's that at first, I think on one of the builds, I was definitely, the first of the three was very much set, and this is the way I want it to happen and all. And as it started changing, there was that deal of frustration. But then when I would complete a section of it, I'd be like, wow, this is like way better than what I originally thought that I wanted. And so the next two builds, were even more fun because of the fact that it was a deal of just allowing the process to happen, to chase that idea and all. And there's life lessons in that for sure on whenever, God puts you at a point in life where you think this is, where I think he wants me to be. And then God says, no, it's really not. And you're like, okay, being willing to allow him to talk to you and being able to allow that to be something that you change. And it always is way better than anything you could possibly imagine.
It is. I love how you connected those two things. That is really awesome. I mean, it's not just Legos. For anybody out there, it's not just Legos. It's a lot deeper than that. Okay, so this build that you took to Chicago is
Right.
now here in East Texas. So talk to me
Yes.
a little bit about where that build is and how people can go see it.
So first and foremost, I'm extremely excited to finally have this in Lufkin, the Museum of East Texas here in Lufkin, Texas, located next to the Civic Center here in Lufkin. For those Lufkinites that are out there that know where it is, the Museum of East Texas in Lufkin. This is the first time I've ever had the opportunity to display in Lufkin, which is great, or in East Texas, period. And we've been able to take it to Houston and Dallas and San Antonio and now Chicago. But to finally be able to come home with it to Lufkin is great. So it's at the Museum of East Texas from now through October the night. I'm sorry, yeah, October the 19th. Sorry, October the 19th. The museum is hours are posted on their website, but specifically, if you want to come out on Saturdays and Sundays from 1 to 5, I plan to be there for most as much as possible on Saturdays and Sundays from 1 to 5 at the museum when it's open to be able to talk to families and people about the build and all. But feel free to come by anytime that the museum is open. It's there. They have it lit up and ready for you to be able to view it and all. But I'm super excited to be able to show it to my hometown and to the where I call home, East Texas.
Absolutely. And real quick off of that, so what does it mean to you? Like, because this is now
Yeah.
back where you're originally from. So what does that mean?
I think it's come full circle. This is where Lego, the hobby really started for me was a deal of here in East Texas. We grew up in Alto, Texas, a very small town for those of y'all who know where Alto is, and all. So not a lot to do during the summertime months and off time. So we spent a lot of time building Lego. We spent a lot of time, enjoying that time at the house building Lego between my brother and I and all. And so, to be able to take and take the hobby from something in which you build and then take it and you go all around, Texas and now, across the United States with it, and then be able to come back home is great. And then also you have so many people that are praying for you, asking about it. They know you're into the hobby because, their friends or coworkers or whoever it is, and you show them pictures and videos of like when you were able to do it. And they're all like, man, I wish it was closer. I wish we had an event here. And now that's came true. It's here. It's here in Lufkin. It's the exact build that I brought with me to Chicago. I have even more room and space to be able to kind of to be able to display it and show it. So I really hope that the people of East Texas really enjoy it and all because it's in full force here in the Museum of East Texas here in Lufkin. So I'm very excited to finally have that opportunity to bring it home.
Well, we're excited that it's here in East Texas and that it's just right around the corner for people to go
Right.
see. Okay, so I have a couple more questions for you. So I want to know if somebody is interested in getting involved, what would you say to them? What's your advice?
Sure. So I think, this may go, a lot of people think, oh, this guy never builds Lego sets ever. I build a lot of Lego sets. I enjoy building Lego sets. I buy sets just like I'm sure, parents out there are buying sets for their children or people are buying sets for themselves. I build a lot of sets. And the reason why is because you learn what parts are available to you through that process. Part knowledge and knowledge of what parts are available to you are really a great thing. So like buying sets exposes you to a lot of parts that you have. It exposes you to building techniques that are, that Lego master builders, in Bill in Denmark are, building and designing for people. And so you get like learn building techniques, you learn parts, you do that. And then also the other thing that I would recommend is get outside of your comfort zone with the sets that you're buying. Like a lot of people think, oh, I'm sure he buys just Lego Star Wars sets. I do buy a lot of Lego Star Wars sets, but I buy a lot of sets beyond that. I buy creator sets and space sets and, regular city sets. And the reason why is that the builds are different. And so you learn new parts, you learn new building techniques, you just kind of build your collection in a different way. And so it's a lot of fun to be able to build just any form of Lego. And so I really do enjoy having that opportunity to buy, different sets and then also just parts like you'll see on Facebook Marketplace, somebody selling like, a bag full of random Lego parts. And, those are fun to buy because you look in there and you realize what can I build using these parts? There's no instructions here, but what can you build with it? Because, mixing just a small amount of bricks that almost produces infinite amounts of options and techniques that you can use. So when you get this random bag or a random bucket of Lego and combine that with the sets that you bought over the year, you can really start building some really cool stuff.
I bet. And you were talking a little bit about cost or just buying things. What are we looking at for cost?
So for a build of the nature of mine, it's really hard to tell. I buy Lego like by the part and stuff from either the Lego store on Bricklink or something like that, which is a website where you can buy Lego by the part. And so I buy a lot of Lego like that with really no intended purpose of use. I buy it and say, this is a really cool part. Like I need like a whole bag of these, and I'll buy a box or a little bag of parts. And then, when I'm building something and I run into a part where I'm like, okay, how do I make this curve? Or how do I, make this part on top of this roof or something? I'm like, that's the part that I need. That's the part that I need. And so I'll go reference that part. So I'm buying parts, throughout the year to be able to do that. And then there's other things that are, that I buy intentionally for the build. So I'll build a section of something and I'll be like, okay, this is exactly how I want it. And I know I need to duplicate that 3 or 4 times. And so what I'll do is I'll start counting the parts to figure out what do I need. And so start part counting, and then sometimes I'll buy parts for that. So, I always think people are surprised. They think it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's really, whenever it's just building collection over the years and all, and being able to utilize and leverage that collection and all. But, for instance, the big 12-foot wide one, I know I've spent, about $1,000 or so on parts specifically for that build and all. But when it's, my wife says it's cheaper than a bass boat, and it's cheaper than, a lot of other hobbies, I guess. So she's awesome, and she's super patient and tolerates it, and then, actually encourages it. So it's pretty fun.
That's awesome. I like her. I like her math there. It's cheaper than that. So
That's right.
so we're
That's
keeping
right.
some money in our pockets. Okay, so my last question. I think this is my last question. I told you this last time. I could really talk to you all day because I feel like
Uh,
it's so
I
interesting.
could
And I
too. It's so much fun. Yeah.
yeah, I love it. So, okay, what is the next build? What can we look
Oh
forward to?
man.
I asked this last time. What can we look forward
No, it's a great question. It's a great question because, when you work on something for 2018, you're so hyper focused on it all. And then, the Chicago build, and then we took a part of it to Sugarland here a few weeks ago, and now the Museum of East Texas. So it's been back to back to back Lego. It's been a really heavy year of Lego, which is super fun. I'm happy about it. But the next build, I'm not really sure. There's a few ideas that I have floating around in my mind, from smaller scale stuff to, another large build and all. But I do think that I'm probably going to get outside of Star Wars and build something different, and build something that is completely outside of that realm. So I guess the answer, and I guess I almost sound like a politician when I'm trying to dodge the question, but that it's really, I don't know, but I'm super excited to see what it is.
Oh, I am. I'm excited. And especially, I mean, you're saying you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, which was your advice there. So you're
Right.
you're gonna be in a whole new realm. Okay, this is for real, my last one. Why
Okay.
Star Wars? Is there a reason, or is it just like you just love Star Wars?
I do love Star Wars, but it's also just the deal of like, and when I say Star Wars, I like building Star Wars, but it's the stuff that you're going to see at the Museum of East Texas was never in any of the movies. It was never in any of the shows. It's all Star Wars inspired. So it allowed me to like build something within that galaxy that was never in any of the shows or movies or anything like that. So, I commonly get that question of like, what movie or show was this in from Star Wars? And the answer, it's not. And so it gave me that ability to be able to work within like something that was very familiar to me, because I do love the movies and all. So it gave me something to be able to work inside of that, while at the same time, building something that's 100% uniquely my own. So it was extremely fun to be able to build within that realm, but not exactly something that was a one-to-one copy from something that you saw in the movies.
Right. It's almost like you get to add to that movie from your
Absolutely.
perspective, which is
Right.
really awesome. That's like creative
Right.
freedom to a different level on
Mhm.
something that you love. Well, okay, Corey, is there anything else that maybe I just didn't, cover that we need to go over about this or that you want people to know?
No, I think that the one thing that I want people to know is that Lego is whatever you want it to be. For me, it was a deal of when I was growing up, this time where my brother and I built together, and then when he left the house, I was building by myself, and then it's kind of come full circle where I build with my family, and all, and my family are a huge part of this and all. And so my wife, I give her so much thanks for her encouraging it. My mom for encouraging the hobby, buying things when us Lego versus other things when we were growing up. My son, he flies in from Philadelphia every year to come to the Lego convention here in Texas, and we do that as a family. And so Lego is a family affair, and it's one of those deals that you can enjoy as a family, and have building nights and things like that are a lot of fun. And the other thing is that we had it out at the Museum of East Texas, this build last weekend, and the people who came through, what was really encouraging and really fun to see is that so many of the kids like saw it and they were ready to leave. And I was like, why are they so ready to leave? And that's because they were ready to go home and build themselves. And so there's a deal of like being able, then the opportunity to inspire people to go build is really fun. And so, I really hope people come out that adult fans of Lego, people who just love to look at art, people who love Star Wars, people who have children that love Star Wars and Lego, and come out to see this at the Museum of East Texas from now until October the 19th, because it's going to be a lot of fun. And I really look forward to talking to people about it.
Ah, that's awesome. And don't forget, if you go on Saturdays and Sundays, he's going to try
I'm
to be
here.
there. So you'll be able to talk to the builder himself, the award-winning builder. Let me get that right. But
Okay.
thank you so, so much for doing this interview with me. This was awesome. Like I said, you're the coolest person, and I'm so sorry. The sound messed up.
No, Haley, I'm glad to do it again. Anytime I can talk about Lego, I'm game.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'll be in touch when that new build is
That's
out. I'll
right.
be in
Yeah,
touch.
there we go. All right.